Hey there, bestie. I'm Loriemi, your What to Read Next podcast host. Join me as we dive into exciting new reads that'll have you reaching for your TBR pile in no time. From group mysteries to spicy romances, we'll explore it all and help you find your next favorite book. So grab a cup of tea, cozy it up, and let's discover some amazing reads together. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I guess I'm a writer now. I was a musician, which I just consider another form of storytelling, really. But I was a touring musician for a long time. And I live in Baltimore. I have 2 dogs who will hopefully not interrupt our recording at all. I've got the door closed, which usually offends them terribly. But we'll see what happens.
I lived in Berlin actually about 20 years ago, to say. I lived in the PG County. I used to go to Baltimore whenever I needed a break from the school area. I was always in grad school university, my own college park. So I was like, why don't we just go to Baltimore? I would go to Inner Harbor, which is beautiful. And then, or I'll go down to DC. But DC was such a hike. So Baltimore was an easy drive to go to. So I thought I would join the Maryland area out there, cupcakes and all the fun stuff. It's
Nice.
beautiful. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful state.
Yeah, it is a beautiful state. And I've been in the city for a long time, and I've always loved it. The art scene here is so vibrant. Like it was a great place to be a musician. It's a great place to be a writer. It's an affordable city. So it's a city where people can afford to be artists and can afford to support art.
So let's try to run Sweet Home. It's a mouthful for me to say. It's a paranormal ghost story TV show. Yeah. In general, we're in our 20s. We don't know what we're doing with our lives. I try to figure out what a purpose in life is and gets us job as a all-around gopher, swap around in this, reality TV show, which is about ghost stories. So talk to us about what is the elevator pitch, although I think that's that.
Yeah, you did a good job there. Thank you. Yeah, so it's about Mara, who, as you said, is a production assistant, which is the very entrymost point of entry into the world of TV. And the show that she has gotten a job on, thanks to her cousin, is a combination paranormal show and home renovation show.
Yeah.
So the concept is that people buy a house that needs fixing up and also is possibly haunted ? And so the owners have to renovate it by day with the show's handy people, and then at night they have to sleep in it. And so the production kind of keeps them a little bit short on sleep so that they're more willing to believe. And in the first year, this is the long elevator pitch. I gave you the short one and then I kept going. In the early years of the show, they kind of relied on, there are bones in the wall, and, cut to commercial. And when they come back, it turns out, a squirrel died in the wall or something. And then in order to keep the show going, they need more. And so they hire a night crew whose job is to essentially haunt the houses. So there's this layer of reality show manipulation. And then on top of that, there's a layer of also maybe something else is going on.
Yeah. So what was your research? Because it's probably it's a mix of, you probably have watched enough reality TV show to see the structure, but also have some screenwriting, as production, understanding what it needs to work in the production, which is very different than consuming the production, and understanding the job of a PA, but also all the different layers. Because it's not just the PA is there. It's here's a VP, there's this night crew, there's this other person, there's the all-around gopher. For understanding that world, what was your experience to whether research or whether just knowing people in experience of sort?
A little of both. I bought this house years and years ago with a friend from college who was just getting into the movie industry at the time, and she's now in Hollywood, doing it for real. And she was doing it for real here, but she was an assistant set dresser, and she would come back with stories. And also there was this kind of funny thing where I would come downstairs in the morning and I would go to put the kettle on the stove and the kettle would be gone. And then I'd realize that's okay because actually the burners are all gone also. and the toaster, and like they had all gone to set. So she worked on a whole bunch of different things, like commercials, and Marilyn was doing a lot, like West Wing and stuff like that. So she worked on all kinds of stuff, and I got a little of it from her. And it's an interesting question of where I picked the rest. Yeah, a little bit of research, and I've got some other projects that have me like looking at Hollywood stuff in any case. So I guess some of it is just being interested in behind the scenes, and then an interest in the kind of manipulation that goes on. So just reading a lot of like exposés on different shows also, and like, they're not even all like expose, but getting the impression what actually goes on. I guess I had a friend of a friend who was on one of the Fix It shows, and she said that, it was all about the angles, like the one wall of the room that they had done gorgeous stuff. And then it like if the camera had panned over to the other side of the room, like it was just, trashed. And and all of those shows where like they pretend to, people have to decide which house they're buying, but they've actually already bought one of them, and they've just like they're faking the whole thing of walking them through other houses and deciding which one they're going to buy, because really they bought one already. Which makes sense, because like the process of buying a house takes forever. Like they couldn't wait around and see, is this the right house? Are they going to close on it? Like blah, 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 blah. So they do it backwards. Like they'll pack up like the house. Sometimes the people have already moved in, and they'll pack up all their furniture into a moving truck,
Yes.
shoot it as if they're looking at the house for the first time, and then move their stuff back in. Like it's all amazing to me. Just you know, the manufacturing of reality.
Yes. Yeah, I actually feel like I read like for the Manila where there was a couple exposés about some of their shows, and I was like, oh wow, it's like the whole thing is like a facade. It's just, but then again, we're in a society that we love Zillow, uh,
Yeah, yeah. Like
like Zillow real estate. Like we just love perusing Zillow and look at the things that we cannot afford.
right. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it was so much fun. Like, so that was some of the research I did for this too, was like, I picked real houses just for the fun of it that really were available in the areas that the show was shooting. And and had cool architectural details that I included. And then I guess from the screenwriting front, because you asked about that too, at the beginning of the pandemic, a bunch of friends and I started reading scripts online. Like, so we would have like a big, and it's still going. It's like more or less monthly, like 4 years in, once a month, a bunch of us get together and we've picked a movie, and there's a randomizer for like the order for who gets which part. Like you get to choose, but the order of choice is randomized. And then we just do a table read, and sometimes they're costumes or props and sometimes not. But I got kind of into the idea of screenwriting without, like, I haven't done the work yet, but I kind of liked the idea. This is more of a transcript that you see in the book. Like it sort of falls between us, because it's not a scripted show per se. But I think what I've done is the idea that sometimes you come across like someone's transcript of the movie or of the show, where they've like painstakingly written down everything that happened and sort of like backfilled it.
Yeah,
So it's more of that than a shooting script.
yeah. I love this idea of having a group of friends we just talk to just do a table read of us perfect. I'm like, this is like such a like amazing idea. Like not only because it creates a community, but it gives you like a sense of joy, like entertainment in a different way. Like it's consuming it in a way that feels like you can teach your personality too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do different reads of the lines, but also just like seeing how like scripts tick was really interesting, and
Yeah.
which ones flow and which ones like often, like sometimes we'll buy one and sometimes we'll find one that's free online. And occasionally, like if there's something someone really wants to do and it's nowhere to be found, we'll actually like, yeah, like you learn a lot just seeing which ones are genuinely like solid scripts from the start and which ones clearly the actors had a say in and that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think in some ways it might help you like your writing because it's like looking at storytelling in a different perspective. Like
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
layers of like understanding the storytelling and be like, okay, by the way, incorporate to writing, which is like writing books is different. It's different meaning out. There's different expectations, descriptive and all those little things. But at the same time, there's parts of art, story arcs that you can borrow from other mediums and it can actually help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been an education. And I feel like I still have a lot of education on that subject to go, but it's definitely and it was fun to just give it a shot with this
Yeah.
one and do something that's sort of in between, but see if I could make it flow. I've been listening to the audiobook because they just sent it to me this week. And I
Yeah.
don't always listen to the audiobooks of my own books.
Yeah.
Um, but I was really curious, like how they would make it happen. And they did this fantastic job where like most of it is all one reader. And then they did full cast just for the scripts. So they're reading it as if it's, as
Yeah.
if those parts are the show. And they've like infused the personalities into it. And it's delightful.
Yes, I'm pre-ordering the audio for sure. It's like, oh,
Awesome.
like I'm like I consume an audio, especially when it's like me on a medium that gets good infused in audio. It's just there's a new layer of like immersive experience that
Yeah.
I felt like just consuming just understand, like,
Right. Yeah, and the other side of that is sometimes bad audio can ruin it for you. But
yeah.
yeah, so it's always a delight to find that they've, picked really cool voices and that things work. So
So can we talk about your other work after we finish Plots Weekend, which is a shorter book? So it's basically you can read it in one setting or a couple settings. So what else can we from you that it was something?
yeah, so I have two other novels. This one's sort of the longest that a novella can be before it becomes a novel, but the other two are novels proper, and both of them are near future science fiction. So A Song for a New Day is about musicians in a near future where that has had to deal with some violence and also a pandemic. That one came out in 2019 is what I have to always say, is that my pandemic book came out before the pandemic we've lived through, which gave it an interesting and unintentional push because I got some things right in a kind of weirdly, yeah, I just got some things right in a weird way. And the other one is called We Are Satellites, and that one's about a brain implant. So that one came out in 2021, and so I was able, like when people say like, what should I take away from this? I can say, don't let Elon Musk put a chip in your brain. But yeah, it's about a family and how they deal with this new technology that has kind of become ubiquitous in society. And then more similar to this book, I would say if you like the vibe of this, you might actually go for my short fiction instead. I have two collections.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories available online, but I have two collections, both from Small Beer Press. One is called Sooner or Later Everything Falls into the Sea. And the one that came out last year is called Lost Places. And Lost Places, I would say, has a similar vibe to this. There's some kind of there's some kind of creepy stuff, as creepy as this gets, which I generally say, like, I write dark fantasy, not horror. You can call it, I've heard soft horror, I've heard some people say, but I'll take care of your heart is a
Yeah.
general promise I make. Like I'll make you go through some creepy stuff, but yeah, the dog will never die. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, it'll never be gory.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'll try to keep the trauma to what's necessary for the plot.
I appreciate your book as an anxious girl who has PTSD and not sleeping because I get triggered not so easily, but there are certain things that trigger me. This book was just like delightful, like I'm like, oh, I can read more of this now.
Oh,
More,
that's great to
no,
hear. Yeah, so you can read Lost Places and you'll be fine with that as well, I
right.
think.
So
Yeah.
that, I'm sorry to create. So it's perfect. So,
Yeah.
so check on book recommendations. Do you have any books you recommend our listeners to about other than like after reading some of your booklist? What books you to read or you enjoy and you think like, this should be also to add it to your TBR.
Yeah, all right. So I was trying to come up with some stuff and I have a couple of categories. So the first one is if you're just really fascinated by the reality TV stuff, a book just came out. I'm in the middle of it, so I'm recommending it even though I'm not done yet, but it's nonfiction called Cue the Sun by Emily Nussbaum, and it's just a nonfiction history of reality TV, and I'm finding that very fascinating because it actually began earlier than I thought it did. Yeah, I might have I don't think it would have changed how I wrote this book, but it is pertinent to something else that I'm working on. So that's kind of fun. The next category was if you enjoyed the creepy houses and you're into like the haunted house thing, but maybe you want like the state of decay that these houses are in. I was thinking Wilding Hall by Elizabeth Hand, which is also a short novel super creepy, but never horrific. And it's about a band recording their album in a sort of a country manor in England in the 70s and what goes on. It's sort of like Daisy Jones and the Six before Daisy Jones and the Six. So it's told as an oral history of the band. Um, and that's one of my favorite books. I'll recommend that forever. Um, Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia will also give you the like decaying manor vibe. Um, the house that's kind of rotting around the people who are still living in it.
Yeah.
Um, on the reality show front, I haven't. If can I make recommendations that I haven't read yet but sound really
Yeah.
cool?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So a horror movie by Paul Tremblay just came out, and
Yes.
Grim Root by Bonnie Jo Stufflebeam. Both of those I'm going to read during the day with the lights on. But horror movies, I think, kind of found footagey. And Grim Root is a reality show called The Groom, and also a haunted house. So it's sort of bachelorish horror. And I don't know what happens in it. Bonnie will mess with you. So I'll read that during the day. Same with Paul Tremblay. There was a book called Episode 13 that came out a little while ago that was also about a like a paranormal show that didn't have a home improvement side to it and the crew locking themselves in for the night. I did read that one. I thought it was a good time on the whole. There
Yeah.
were a couple of really creepy things in there. And then I might say Someone to Build a Nest In by John Wiswell, which is a more of a reach. But my thought on that one is it's about trying to get by,
Yeah.
which is very much what Mara is doing in this book. And it's about like not so much how to win as how to live, which is I think also what Mara is trying to do in here, and like trying to figure yourself out. So it's a totally different genre. It does have a decaying house-ish thing.
Yeah.
But and it's a little gorier than mine, but it's gory with a soft, kind of squishy heart.
I love these recommendations. You had me on like a little bit of boring, but not too boring. A little horror to read it through the day. And then reality TV. I did not realize like there's a nonfiction from a reality TV industry that I need to know.
It just came out. Yeah, that's why I'm still only partway through it. But so far, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I've been a reality watcher since the 90s. So like it's been a long time. So
Yeah.
so my guy person here. So Sarah, tell us where you can find out by.
SarahPinsker.com, and then, all of the places that I should be, and some places that I'd like to get out of. And you can usually find me at Sarah Pinsker. So as long as you can spell Pinsker and you put the H on Sarah, you can find me. I guess I hang out on Instagram and Blue Sky more than other places these days.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Watch Read Next podcast. If you enjoy our bookish conversations and want more recommendations, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, head on over to the Watch Read Next blog for a list of books mentioned in today's show. Happy reading!